Chapter 1. The Appointment. The clock ticked loudly in the silence of the waiting room, each second echoing louder in Sophia Mitchell's ears. She adjusted the cuff of her denim jacket for the third time, her thumb brushing the worn leather strap of her purse. It was just a checkup, nothing to be nervous about. Still, something about today felt different. The receptionist finally called her name, and she rose from the chair, smoothing her skirt as she followed the hallway into the clinic. Clean, quiet, professional, and cold. The door to exam room 4 was open. And there he was. "Miss Mitchell?" The voice was warm, confident, smooth like aged scotch. Sophia nodded, her steps slowing as she took in the man in the white coat. Dr. Aidan Ross looked nothing like the bland headshot she'd seen online. Early 40s, tall, broad shoulders that filled out his lab coat, and sharp blue eyes that watched her with unnerving intensity. She offered a hand. "Sophia." His fingers closed around hers, firm and steady, but they lingered, just a second longer than they should have, and when he let go, her skin felt warmer where he'd touched her. "Please, have a seat." He gestured toward the examination chair. As she settled in, he glanced at her chart on the tablet. "So, routine checkup, no recent illness, injuries, or concerns?" "Nothing major," Sophia said, her voice calm despite the weird flutter in her chest. "Just thought it was time for an overall. New job, new health insurance. Figured, why not?" He smiled. "That's very responsible. And smart." Something about the way he said smart made her breath hit. Aidan stood and moved closer, holding a stethoscope. "Let's start with basics. Blood pressure, heartbeat, reflexes." The checkup began normally enough, but each step had a quiet tension beneath it. His fingers brushed her skin as he took her pulse. When he moved the stethoscope to her chest, his knuckles grazed her collarbone. Not enough to be called inappropriate, but not quite clinical either. "Deep breath in," he murmured. She obeyed, his hand pressed gently against her ribcage as he listened, his eyes flicking up to meet hers. Something flickered between them. Heat? Curiosity? A silent question? He moved around to her back. Again. Deep breath. His voice was closer now, near her ear. She could smell his cologne. Clean, masculine, and intoxicating. As he pulled away, she turned her head slightly. Their faces were inches apart. "Your heartbeat is strong," he said softly, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. "But fast." She blinked. "Probably just nerves." He raised an eyebrow. "Nervous around doctors?" "Not usually." He laughed gently, then stepped back to review her chart. "Well, Miss Mitchell, everything looks fine so far, but I'd like to schedule a follow-up, just to keep an eye on a few things." Sophia narrowed her eyes slightly. "A follow-up? I thought this was just a checkup." He looked up from the screen and smiled, slow and unreadable. "Let's call it being thorough." She held his gaze for a beat, then nodded. Outside, the hallway felt warmer, brighter. But as she walked away, Sophia realized she was still thinking about the feel of his hand on her skin, and how her pulse hadn't calmed down yet. Chapter 2. The Pulse Quickens. Dr. Aidan Ross sat alone in his office, the glow from his monitor casting shadows across the sterile room. He'd reviewed hundreds of patient files over the years, charts, notes, diagnoses, all routine. But he kept coming back to one, Sophia Mitchell. Her name sat at the top of the screen like a headline in his mind. 25, healthy, no prior issues. And yet, her chart was still open in front of him, hours after her appointment. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing the bridge of his nose. What was it about her? Maybe it was the sharp wit behind her eyes, the subtle sass in her voice. Or maybe it was how his hand had lingered on her skin a little too long, and she hadn't pulled away. In fact, she'd looked right at him, curious, daring. It wasn't like him to lose focus. He'd built a reputation on professionalism, precision. But ever since she walked into his clinic, he felt something pulling at the edges of his control. He tapped on her file again. Her vitals were excellent. Except for one detail: heart rate elevated. More than normal, not dangerously high, just accelerated. He told himself it could have been nerves, but when he listened to her heart, it wasn't fear he heard. It was excitement. Or maybe anticipation. He pulled up the voice memo from his private recorder. He used it to log confidential impressions, unfiltered notes he never uploaded to the hospital system. Patient, Sophia Mitchell. Initial visit, healthy female 25, no clinical concerns. However, significant physical reaction during standard exam. Unclear if emotional or physiological. Suggest follow-up for further observation. Personal note: unusually strong presence, unsettling effect on focus. Uncharacteristic response, from me. Aiden paused the recording. He shouldn't be doing this, not with her. But he couldn't help himself. The next day, Sophia sat at her desk at the interior design firm where she worked, trying to focus on layout drafts for a corporate client. But every few minutes, her mind wandered. Back to him. The way Dr. Ross had looked at her, like he saw something more than muscle and bone, like he was reading between the lines of her body. She wasn't naive. She knew when a man was flirting, even in subtle ways. But he was her doctor. That line was supposed to be uncrossable. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling in her stomach when she thought about the heat in his eyes, or the warmth of his touch when he pressed his palm against her side. It had felt intentional. Her phone buzzed. Dr. Aiden Ross, St. James Hospital. She stared at the screen, heart skipping. She answered. "Miss Mitchell," his voice said smoothly. "I hope I'm not interrupting your day." She swallowed. "Not at all. I just wanted to confirm your follow-up appointment. Friday, 4:30 p.m. Does that work for you?" She paused. That was quick. "I like to be efficient." A beat of silence. "And I'd like to keep an eye on that heart rate." Sophia almost smiled. "Still high, is it?" His voice dropped an octave. "Only when you're in the room." The line buzzed softly between them. She felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I'll be there," she said. That night, as the city lights flickered outside her window, Sophia couldn't sleep. Her body remembered the way his hand had touched her, how close his breath had been near her ear. And somewhere, beneath the excitement, a little voice whispered, "Be careful. There's more to him than he's telling you." But her heart was already racing. Chapter 3: Checkups and Chemistry. Friday afternoon arrived too slowly for Sophia's liking, and far too quickly for her nerves. As she stood in the elevator of St. James Hospital, her reflection stared back at her in the stainless steel doors. She'd spent longer than she cared to admit picking out her outfit. Something casual, but not too casual. Professional, but still feminine. Just enough to make him look again. The elevator dinged. The door to exam room 4 was closed this time. She hesitated, then knocked softly. "Come in." His voice again, that low, steady hum that vibrated straight through her chest. Sophia stepped inside and immediately felt the temperature shift. Maybe it was the air conditioning. Maybe it was the way Dr. Aiden Ross looked up from his desk and smiled like he'd been waiting for her all day. "Sophia," he said, standing. He didn't use Miss Mitchell this time. "Good to see you again." "You too, doctor." "Just Aiden," he said easily, gesturing toward the exam table. "Unless you like being formal." She raised a brow. "Depends on the situation." That earned her a smile. Touché. He checked her vitals again. Blood pressure, temperature, pulse. But it was how he did it that left her breathless. His hand lingered on her wrist while checking her pulse, his thumb stroking lightly over her skin as if he were memorizing her. When he pressed the stethoscope to her chest again, his eyes didn't leave hers. Her blouse was unbuttoned at the collar, not by accident. When he reached inside to place the metal disc against her skin, his fingertips brushed her bra strap. She didn't flinch. "Heart rate still high," he murmured. "Maybe it's your stethoscope," she said, not breaking eye contact. "Maybe it's you," he replied without missing a beat. The air between them thickened like fog. He pulled away slowly, setting the stethoscope down. "There's something about you, Sophia." She tilted her head. "Is that a medical observation?" "More of a personal one." He sat on the stool, wheeling closer until their knees nearly touched. His tone grew softer, but no less intense. "You've been on my mind all week," he admitted, which, professionally, I shouldn't be saying. She smiled, but there was heat in it. Professionally, I should probably leave. "Are you going to?" Her gaze dropped to his hands, strong, practiced, capable. The same hands that had traced her ribs under the pretense of an exam. The same hands she wasn't sure she wanted to stop. "No," she said, "not yet." He reached for her hand, this time not pretending it was medical, just skin on skin, thumb grazing her palm, a pulse between their fingers. "I want to be clear," he said. "I'm walking a line with you, a very fine line, and it would be so easy to cross it." Sophia looked up at him. "Then why don't you?" He inhaled slowly, his gaze flickering between her lips and her eyes. "Because once I do, I won't go back." For a moment, the only sound was the faint buzz of the overhead lights and the pounding rhythm of her heart. Then the door clicked. A knock, sharp, professional. A nurse poked her head in. "Dr. Ross, ER is paging. They need you for a consult." His jaw clenched slightly, like the interruption physically pained him. He stood, the moment vanishing like mist. "Reschedule with the front desk," he said to her gently. "We'll finish this another time." She slid off the table, heart hammering in her chest, legs a little shaky. He reached for the doorknob, then paused and turned back. "Sophia?" She looked over her shoulder. "Until next time, try to keep that heart rate under control." Outside the hospital, the city felt louder, more alive. But as Sophia walked toward her car, her fingers still tingled where he'd touched her, and her body still remembered the heat in his gaze. She didn't know what they were stepping into, but she was already too far gone to turn back. Chapter 4. Night Calls. The hospital faded into memory, but Aidan couldn't shake her from his mind. He'd touched hundreds of patients, always with care, always with precision. But with Sophia, it hadn't been clinical. He'd felt her skin respond under his fingertips, felt her breath catch, her muscles tighten. She wanted the contact, and he wanted her in a way that was quickly becoming dangerous. So when her name lit up his phone that night, 11:17 p.m., he didn't hesitate to answer. "Sophia?" he said softly, the sound of her name like silk on his tongue. There was a pause on the other end. "I wasn't sure if you'd pick up. I told you I wouldn't go back once I crossed the line," he said. "This call feels like a step forward." "I had a weird pain," she said quickly, like she needed to justify dialing. "In my side, lower abdomen." He was already focused. "Describe it." "Sharp, dull, radiating?" Dull, it comes and goes, mostly when I lie on my left side. Any fever, nausea? No, just tightness. His voice softened. You could come in if it gets worse. Sophia hesitated. I was hoping you'd just tell me I'm fine so I can sleep. I can't do that unless I see you. The line was quiet for a beat. Are you alone? He asked. Yes. Aiden let out a slow breath. You should try to rest. Keep hydrated. But if it gets worse, I want you back in my office. Even if it's the middle of the night? Especially then. She laughed, low and breathy. What are you doing right now? He smiled. Talking to you. Wondering what you're wearing. Hayden, she warned, her voice husky. Should I stop? No, she whispered. Another beat of silence. I'm in Monday, he said. No appointment, just walk in. I'll make time. Monday arrived with gray skies and a heavy mist over the city. Sophia walked into the clinic just after lunch, her heart already thudding. Aiden met her at the door of exam room 4, alone. No nurse, no assistants, just him. Doesn't seem like a typical visit, she said with a small smile. I cleared my schedule, he said, just in case. He locked the door behind her. She turned slowly, her breath catching. That's not very professional. Neither is this. He stepped forward, cupping her cheek, his thumb brushing her jaw. Her skin burned under his touch. I couldn't stop thinking about you, he murmured. And I don't want to pretend anymore. Then he kissed her. It started slow, soft, careful, but the second she responded it deepened. His hands slid to her waist, hers to the collar of his coat, and for a long, breathless moment, there was only heat, chemistry. When he finally pulled back, both of them were breathless. I should tell you to leave, he said. I won't. I should stop. Don't. He reached for her again, lips trailing down her neck, hand exploring the curve of her spine. When he pressed her gently onto the exam table, her heartbeat thudded so loud she swore he could hear it. But then something shifted. He pulled back abruptly, eyes dark with something unreadable. What? She asked, her voice unsteady. He looked toward the door. Someone's watching. She froze. What do you mean? He opened a drawer, pulling out a small black device, the kind used to sweep for bugs and hidden cameras. You're not paranoid when you've seen the worst of this place, he said quietly. Someone's keeping tabs, not just on me, on you too. Sophia sat up, covering herself with her jacket. Why? Aiden didn't answer. He just stared at the blinking red light on the corner ceiling tile, one that hadn't been there the week before. Later that night, Sophia lay in bed, her phone clutched to her chest. Her lips still tingled from his kiss, her body still hummed from the touch of his hands. But her mind buzzed with a new question now. Was this just a forbidden romance? Or had she walked straight into something far more dangerous? Chapter 5. Beneath the Surface. Sophia stood in her bathroom the next morning, staring at her reflection. Her skin still bore the faint trace of Aiden's hands, places he had touched, kissed, claimed. But it wasn't just her body that had changed. It was her instincts. Something had shifted. The thrill was still there. His lips, his voice, the way he'd looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. But now, it felt shadowed. A warning curled at the edges of her excitement. That blinking red light in the ceiling tile wasn't imagination. It was real. Aiden had known it was there. And he'd come prepared. Who carried a bug detector in their office. Who swept for hidden cameras in an exam room. Who locked the door before kissing their patient. She tightened her towel around her chest and stared harder into the mirror. The logical part of her brain screamed at her to stop, to run, but her pulse betrayed her, fast and hungry, and still drawn to him, despite the shadows, maybe because of them. Later that day, Sophia sat across from her best friend Leah in their usual coffee shop, an old converted train car that smelled like cinnamon and secrets. Leah sipped her latte, her eyes narrowing. Sophia smirked. "It's not the coffee." "Spill it, I want everything. Who is he?" Sophia hesitated, then said carefully, "He's a doctor." Leah's brows shot up. "You're dating a doctor? Since when?" "It's complicated. That means it's hot. It's also risky. He's my doctor." Leah leaned in. "That's very Grey's Anatomy of you." Sophia laughed, but it faltered. "Leah, someone was watching us. In his office, a hidden camera." Leah blinked. "Wait, what?" Knew it was there. He swept the room like it wasn't the first time. And he didn't seem shocked, just annoyed. Leah's smile faded. "That's not romantic, Soph. That's scary. You don't even know this guy." Sophia toyed with her spoon. "He told me someone's been following him, tracking his patients, but he wouldn't say who." "Jesus. You sure he's not the one being followed for a reason?" "I don't know," Sophia whispered, "but I think I'm already in too deep." At the hospital, Aiden moved like a ghost through the halls, professional, controlled. But beneath the surface, something twisted tighter. He sat in his office, the blinds drawn, the door locked. He opened a secured file on his private laptop, a database not connected to the hospital system. Photos, notes, surveillance logs. Sophia Mitchell was now in it, just like the others before her. But something about her was different. The others hadn't made him feel anything. Not like this. Not like she did. A knock broke the silence. He minimized the screen and stood. A nurse peeked in. "Dr. Ross? There's someone asking for you in the lobby." She wouldn't give a name, said it was personal. His blood chilled. He walked slowly down the corridor and into the marble-floored lobby. And there she was. Vanessa. Dark hair, red lips, a storm behind her eyes. Aiden stopped 3 feet away. "This isn't the time." "You're playing house again?" she said coldly. "That girl, Sophia. Does she know who you really are?" He kept his voice low. "Don't say her name." Vanessa stepped closer. "You think hiding behind a white coat makes you clean? Makes everything disappear? You're being watched, Aiden, just like before." His jaw tightened. "I came to warn you," she added, softer now. "Walk away from her, or they'll come for both of you." That night, Sophia lay in bed, scrolling through news articles about doctors and scandals. Nothing came up under Aiden's name. But there was a coldness now in her apartment, a shadow behind the windows. She got up and checked the locks. Every single one. She paused near the window. Her phone buzzed. A known number. "Don't trust him. You're next." She stared at the message, breath caught in her throat. Outside, a car engine idled, then faded into the night. Chapter 6. Tension in the Blood. Sophia stared at the message on her phone long after the words stopped glowing on the screen. "Don't trust him. You're next." She blocked the number, deleted the message. But the fear remained, like static in her chest. The next morning, she didn't go to work. She called in sick, though her voice barely shook when she spoke. She was getting good at pretending things were fine. Instead, she sat at her kitchen table with her laptop and a strong cup of coffee, typing the same name into search bars again and again. Dr. Aiden Ross. Harvard Med, Johns Hopkins, 2 published research articles. A clean record. Too clean. It was like his digital trail had been scrubbed. No social media, no photos. Not even a class reunion post. Then she tried a different name. Vanessa Lockhart. The woman from the hospital lobby. The one Aiden didn't want to talk about. And there she was. In an article dated 3 years ago. Nurse Vanessa Lockhart. Formal complaint against cardiologist A.R. It didn't list Aiden's name. But the initials matched. The hospital matched. And in the fine print at the bottom, one damning sentence stood out. The case was dropped due to insufficient evidence, though security footage from the hospital mysteriously disappeared weeks before the hearing. Sophia sat back in her chair, cold settling in her stomach. Why hadn't he told her? Why had he locked that part of his life away, like a skeleton buried too deep? That afternoon, she did something reckless. She walked into the hospital without calling. She found her way back to the familiar hallway and knocked hard on the door to exam room 4. Aiden opened it and froze when he saw her. "Sophia." "Don't lie to me," she said, stepping inside. Her voice didn't shake. His face shifted, less surprised now, more resigned. She shut the door behind her. "Vanessa Lockhart," she said, "I know about the complaint. I know it was you. Why didn't you tell me?" He didn't deny it. "I wanted to protect you," he said. "From what?" He walked to the counter, his back to her. "From what happens when people get close to me." "That's not an answer." Aiden turned around. His eyes were dark, exhausted. "Vanessa and we were involved. She wasn't just a nurse. She was someone I trusted, until she started accusing me of things I didn't do." "Would she lie?" "Because she wanted to ruin me." Sophia stepped closer. "And what about now? Who's watching me?" "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." He reached into a drawer and pulled out another black device. A signal jammer. He turned it on with a click. "You think someone planted a camera in here again?" she asked. "I know they did. I found the receiver in a janitor's closet last night." "Who's doing this?" He stared at her, voice low. "It could be Vanessa, or it could be someone worse. I've made enemies, Sophia. Patients, families, lawyers, even people inside this hospital who don't want me asking questions." She backed away, heart thudding. "I don't know if I can do this." He stepped forward, gently catching her hand. "Then tell me now, before I get in deeper than I already am." Sophia stared at him. His touch still set her skin on fire. Her body still responded like it remembered every kiss, every trace of his fingers. But now there was more. Danger, fear, uncertainty. "I don't want to walk away," she whispered, "but I need to know everything." His jaw clenched. "Then come with me." "To where?" "My place." An hour later, she sat in his car as it pulled off a quiet road and turned down a narrow gravel driveway lined with trees. His house was isolated. No neighbors in sight, just a modern structure with glass walls and a thick forest behind it. Inside it smelled like cedar and coffee, minimalist furniture, medical books, a single photo on the mantel. Aiden, younger, smiling, with a man who looked like his father. "This is the only place I trust," he said. "It's off-grid. No wireless security, no smart tech, no listening ears." She followed him into a small room that looked like a study. The desk was covered in folders, names, dates, newspaper clippings. He handed her a file. Inside were photos of patients. 3 women. All had filed complaints against doctors at different hospitals. All cases dismissed. All surveillance footage missing. And all had seen Aiden just before things went wrong. They weren't just random women, he said. They were chosen, tracked, just like you. Sophia's blood ran cold. What do they want? I think they want to break me, he whispered. And they're using the women I care about to do it. She closed the file and looked up at him. Then we fight back, she said. That night, as they sat side by side in his quiet home, the line between fear and longing blurred again. His hand found hers. Her lips found his shoulder. And when he pulled her into his arms, it wasn't just lust. It was survival. Chapter 7. The Break-In. Sophia didn't sleep much that night. Even wrapped in Aiden's arms, her body warm beneath his blanket, her mind spun with questions. About Vanessa, about the women in the file, about who might be watching, and why. But for a moment, just a sliver of time, it felt safe. Until the glass shattered. It was the unmistakable sound of a window exploding, somewhere in the back of the house. Sophia jerked upright. Aiden was already on his feet. He grabbed the drawer beside his bed, pulled out a small black pistol, and motioned for her to stay low. Stay here, he mouthed. She shook her head. No. But he was already gone, moving through the hallway with surgical calm. Sophia scrambled out of bed, heart hammering. She grabbed her phone and followed slowly, listening to the soft creak of floorboards beneath her feet. Then, another sound. A thud. And a voice. Low, male, unfamiliar. Check the study. He hides the drives there. Sophia froze. Another voice responded. Shopper, female. Be quick, in and out. Don't touch the girl. Her blood went cold. She backed into the guest room and ducked into the closet, holding her breath. Footsteps passed. Then shouting. A gun cocked. A struggle. Then, bang! She screamed before she could stop herself. 2 minutes later, Aiden burst into the closet, blood splattered across his sleeve, eyes wild. Are you hurt? She shook her head, trembling. No, but what happened? One of them ran, the others unconscious in the study. Call the cops. Won't that blow everything open? I'll take care of it, just call. She did, with shaking hands and a voice barely her own. She gave a fake name, but the address was real. Within 20 minutes, sirens flashed at the tree line. Aiden had cleaned the study enough to make it look like a burglary gone wrong. The unconscious man was left near the broken window, his weapon placed beside him. The woman, the voice Sophia had heard, was gone. The officer asked a few questions, took a statement, and left with the intruder in cuffs. But as soon as the cruiser disappeared, Aiden locked every door, every window, and turned to her. They weren't just robbers, she whispered. No, he said. They were after the drives. Sophia sat down hard on the couch. What drives? He hesitated. Then he crossed the room and opened the false panel behind his bookshelf. From the hidden compartment, he pulled a flash drive. Plain, silver, unmarked. What's on it? Evidence, he said quietly. Of what they did. To me, to the other women. You've been collecting this for how long? Since Vanessa turned on me, he said. I thought I could stay ahead of them, but now... He looked at her, pain flickering behind his eyes. Now, you're a target. Sophia swallowed. What's on that drive could get people arrested? People with power. People who think they're untouchable? Then we need to leak it. Not yet, he said. If we move too soon, they'll know it was us, and they'll make sure the truth never gets out. She stared at him. What about us, Aiden? What do we do now? He stepped closer, gently brushed her hair from her face. We survive, he said. And we don't let them win. Then his lips met hers, urgent, fierce. Less about desire and more about anchoring each other in the storm. They kissed like people who didn't know if tomorrow was promised. Hands tangled, bodies pressed, breathless. When he pulled away, he rested his forehead against hers. "I'm falling for you, Sophia," she exhaled. "Then, hold on. Because this ride's not over." Outside the house, under the shadow of trees, a pair of eyes watched from behind tinted glass. A phone call was made. Sheena's. The voice on the other end was cold, calm. "Then it's time we bring her in." Chapter 8. Taken. The next morning was unusually still. The house felt heavier, like it knew what was coming. Sophia stood by the window, coffee growing cold in her hand, watching birds scatter from the trees. Aiden was in the study, encrypting the drive again. After last night, neither of them had truly slept. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. She froze. Then opened the message. "Come alone if you want him to live. Do not tell him. Address follows." 1 hour. Her breath hitched. She looked down the hallway toward the study. Aiden, unaware, bent over his laptop, jaw tight in concentration. Sophia's fingers trembled. She wanted to scream, to show him, to tell him what was happening. But the message was clear. They had Aiden. Or they would. And if she didn't go, she wouldn't risk it. An hour later, Sophia stood at the end of a dirt road behind an abandoned veterinary clinic just outside the city. The place reeked of mildew and rot. Her heart pounded in her ears. The door creaked open. Vanessa stood there, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "I knew you'd come." Sophia didn't blink. "What do you want from me?" Vanessa motioned her inside. "To finish what he started. You want answers? Here they are." The inside was worse. Peeling paint, cold metal tables, flickering lights, and photos, taped to walls, scattered across a desk. Photos of Aiden. Surveillance shots, at the hospital, at his house, with her. "You've been following us." "No," Vanessa said. "They have." Sophia turned sharply. "Who are they?" "The people Aiden used to work for," Vanessa said. "The people who own the hospitals, the clinical trials, the insurance loopholes. He tried to take them down, but he failed." "Failed how?" "He fell in love with a patient," Vanessa hissed. "You?" Sophia blinked. "You were in love with him, weren't you?" Vanessa's jaw clenched. "I trusted him," she said. "I believed in his cause. Until I became another pawn in it." Sophia's voice was soft. "And now you want revenge?" "I want him to suffer," Vanessa said. "The way I did. The way all of us did." Sophia stepped closer. "Then why drag me into this?" "Because you're his weakness." A heavy door opened at the back of the room. 2 men stepped through. One carried a tablet, the other a syringe. "No," Sophia whispered. "What is this?" "You're going to send him a message," Vanessa said. "A goodbye." They moved fast. Sophia struggled, screamed, but the needle found her arm. And everything went black. Hours later, Aiden paced the house. The coffee still sat untouched by the window. Her phone was gone. Her bag still on the chair? Something was wrong. Very wrong. His phone buzzed. "You shouldn't have touched her. Now it's your turn to bleed." Attached was a video. Sophia, tied to a chair, a bruise on her cheek, her mouth taped, eyes wide. Aiden's breath stopped. He packed the flash drive in his jacket, grabbed his gun, and headed out. But before he made it to the door, something clicked behind him. He turned just as a man stepped from the shadows of the kitchen, gun raised. "Give me the drive." "Let her go." The man smiled coldly. "You're not in control anymore, Doctor." Somewhere unknown, Sophia awoke with pounding pain behind her eyes. Her arms were tied behind her. Her mouth was free now, but the room was dark, windowless. No Aiden. She tried to scream, but all she could whisper was his name. Aiden? Back at the house, Aiden was forced to his knees. The man rummaged through his pockets, found the drive, and held it up. "You should have stopped while you were ahead." Then he raised the gun. Aiden's eyes locked on him. "If you kill me, that drive dies with me." The man paused, but in the distance, tires crunched on gravel. Flashlights beamed through the trees. "Police." The man cursed, ran. Aiden scrambled after him, but by the time he reached the trees, the intruder was gone. And so was the drive. Back inside, Aiden collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. His heart pounded not from the chase, but from her. Sophia. They had her. And now it was personal. Chapter 9, The Reckoning. The rain came fast and hard the next morning, drumming against the windshield as Aiden's car tore down the abandoned highway. His knuckles were white around the steering wheel. His mind, however, was racing elsewhere. Sophia was somewhere out there. In pain, afraid. And he had failed to protect her. But not this time. This time he had a name. The man who'd broken into his home, who'd taken the drive, had once worked security for one of the pharmaceutical companies Aiden had exposed years ago. A company that had buried illegal drug trials, the kind that killed patients without ever hitting the news. And now they were tying up loose ends. Starting with Sophia. Aiden pressed the accelerator harder. Sophia blinked against the sting in her eyes. A single bulb swung above her, casting her in shadows. The room smelled of metal, sweat, and silence. Then the door opened. Vanessa walked in, calm and cruel. "You look disappointed," she said. Sophia's voice cracked. "Why are you doing this?" "Because he never learned to stop chasing ghosts," Vanessa replied. "You were just a new one, but now he'll watch you disappear too, and maybe, finally, he'll break." Sophia forced herself to stay calm. "You loved him, didn't you?" Vanessa faltered, just slightly. "I believed in him." "Until he chose you." Then came a distant sound, like thunder. No, not thunder. Engines, tires, doors. Sophia's heart leapt. And then chaos. The door exploded inward. Aiden stormed into the room, gun raised, eyes burning with panic and rage. Behind him, a plainclothes officer and 2 federal agents fanned out through the building. Vanessa reached for the knife at her hip, but Sophia shouted, "Aiden!" That half-second of distraction was enough. Aiden disarmed her, kicked the knife across the floor, and wrapped his arms around Sophia, pulling her close as her restraints fell away. She collapsed into him, shaking. "I thought I lost you," he whispered into her hair. "You almost did," she said through tears. "But you came." "I'll always come." Vanessa was arrested on the spot. The flash drive was recovered from her accomplice's hideout. A second copy Aiden had forgotten he made months ago, tucked away in his encrypted cloud backup. The information on it broke the case wide open. Indictments were filed, the pharmaceutical empire began to collapse, the story hit every major news outlet within days. But none of that mattered as much as what came after. 3 weeks later, Sophia walked along the hospital corridor, not as a patient, but beside Aiden, hand in hand. They had been cleared of suspicion, of fear, of everything but emotion. "You know," she said softly, "it all started with a checkup." He smiled, stopping her in the hallway and pulling her close. "I remember thinking the second you walked in that you were trouble. And you were right." His fingers brushed her cheek. "But I've never wanted anything more in my life." He kissed her, soft and deep, right there in the middle of the hospital wing. They had fought for this, bled for it, survived for it. Epilogue. 6 months later, Aiden and Sophia moved into a home far from the city, a quiet place by a lake, where the mornings smelled like pine and peace. She wrote a memoir, he opened a private clinic, and together they healed not just themselves, but others too. The nightmares faded. The whispers disappeared. But every night, Aiden would hold her close and say the same words. "I found my heartbeat again." And every time, she'd whisper back, "It's us." The end.